Taste the Mediterranean through March 19th at Whole Foods Market. Save on animal welfare certified bone and beef short ribs, sustainable wild-caught sockeye salmon, and more. Find sales on Parmigiano Reggiano, charcuterie and ground lamb. Grab an olive boule bread from the bakery. Plus, wines from the Mediterranean start at just $8.99. Taste the Mediterranean now at Whole Foods Market. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
Today on CityCast Madison. It's Thursday, so of course we're dishing on Madison's food scene. There's a new vision for access to healthy food on Madison's east side. What was formerly Vision's nightclub on East Wash and Stoughton Road is now proudly an international food market. Goa Grocery is a new grocery store dedicated to African, Hmong, and Southeast Asian products. And it's also an answer to ending a local food desert. CityCast Madison's Molly Setz sat down with the owners, Samba Balde and Jera Kujabe, to get their vision. It's Thursday, February 29th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Good morning, Samba. Good morning, Jera.
Good morning, Molly.
Thank you for being here. So, Samba, I want to start with you because many people know you as a politician, as our state representative. Why did you want to open a grocery store?
Right. Yes, a lot of people know me as a politician, but in many cases, politicians are people who are driven by public service or doing for others. And so even though I'm in an elected office, a political office, I have always been very active in the community as a service provider or servant leader or something of that nature. Also within the community, I'm looking for challenges that I can help to address. One of the challenges here is this neighborhood is a food desert. And so the fact that I was looking into the possibility of food access, I ran onto this space. I mean, many other spaces in the city of Madison where, the areas were identified as food desert. And so we decided to find a way to support the neighborhood by purchasing the Vision's nightclub and converting it into a grocery store. It's still, a public service endeavor. It's a business for profit. But the idea also is that we set the business in an area where the service that we provide are really, really needed. And so that's the reason why a politician is doing a grocery store. But on top of that, also, we do have apartments on the second floor. And the idea for that also is to help people who are struggling with access to housing, but also affordability housing. And so we do have units at the top of the grocery that we are working with an agency that predominantly deals with people who struggle to even get approval for rent. And so, it's still part of my commitment to social justice, community service, and just giving back to the community.
And Jera, how did you first become involved in the grocery?
So Samba and I go way back. This is not our first rodeo in the food services industry. In addition to this, we've started two other businesses, actually. Both of us have a background rooted in technology. I know he didn't mention that. I have a day job as a network engineer for some private schools. He'd worked as a software developer for American Family for many, many years. So actually, our first business was an IT consulting business that we've run for almost 13 years now. In addition to that, we had started a food kiosk at the Westtown Mall, where we sold a combination of African and American food. I think we ran that for a while. The idea of providing food maybe kind of morphed out of that endeavor that we had. And so when we left the establishment at the Westtown Mall, our idea was to go outside because of the many restrictions in terms of when you open and all the guidelines that you have to meet being in an inside space and the challenges that come along with rent hikes and all that kind of stuff. We decided that we will fold that business and go outside and maybe start an African restaurant, since there aren't many of those in the town of Madison. And so between that, like Samba says, we came to learn of challenges in certain pockets of the city in terms of access to healthy retail food. And that's how this idea came about, that we will at least help address that situation. And our presence in that location was strategic. It was not by accident, because as I mentioned, that space is meaning that that community that we're located in is designated by the city itself as a food desert.
Mm. So your store is on East Washington Avenue, close to Highway 51. How did you determine that location? Like, why that neighborhood?
Our goal was to address the social issue that Samuel was talking about, access to food. And so if you look at the Truex neighborhood, it is cut off by two major highways. In fact, right across the street from us is Hy-Vee, which was the only easy outlet that those folks in that neighborhood have access to some sort of food. They either have to cross 151 or cross 51 to get there. Woodman is about maybe 2.5 miles away. Most of the folks that we service in this neighborhood are, at least the theme that we've heard is that we don't drive. And so if you have kids in tow trying to get to Woodman's, walking or whatever is just a challenge. If you try to get to Hy-Vee, you face the same challenge. And so even though we're facing eastwards, there is a whole neighborhood that's behind us that's really landlocked in terms of trying to access these areas that I mentioned.
But in addition to that, also, we intentionally look for neighborhoods that may need our services. And so on the city website, there is a link that shows pockets within the city that are considered food desert. And so that's how we knew that this area really needed this kind of services. And so this is why we decided to acquire the property there.
Do you anticipate most of your customers will come from the neighborhood and come on foot, like you're saying, from the immediate neighborhood?
Yep. So we've already seen that. Since we opened, we've seen steady traffic from the neighborhood, the folks in the neighborhood just being able to walk there, which is what we anticipated. But our customers are not just localized to the neighborhood. We're also a specialty store, I should say. We carry culturally appropriate foods that other folks within the east side, all the way to Sun Prairie, the northeast side of Madison, and even some folks that 2 days ago I was at the store and someone told me, I live in Twitburg and my mom saw a coverage and she lives in Milwaukee and told me to come check you guys out. So we have customers that come from all over the city right now. But yes, to your question, we've seen a lot of foot traffic from customers that live within the vicinity.
Yes, and I also think the fact that we carry specialty food, ethnic food, I've seen many people who work in the Peace Corps stop by across the state. I've had people come all the way from Milwaukee, so it's the intent was to give access to quality food to this neighborhood. But obviously, the fact that we have specialized food that you generally will not find in a regular Woodman's or Walmart or something of that nature. People who experience international food, particularly that of the African continent, would drive over to get food. And I've seen so many of them.
So I stopped in and was amazed at the selection that you had, the wide variety of things. Like you can get pasta, you can get fresh vegetables, you can get labna, like cultured yogurt, you could get, I think you had like fufu and jollof rice and like fresh figs and dates and Jordanian almonds, like food from all over the world. What are some of the favorite things that you carry?
So I don't know, I'll let somebody chime in as well, but for me, I'll be a little biased because of the region that I come from. But let me just say one of the things that I tell most of the customers that come in is that as a grocery store, even if you look at the huge department stores, you're not going to be able to find everything. So we knew that we wouldn't be able to provide to everyone. But one thing we were conscious about was to make sure that most people that walk into that space are represented, and hence the variety of items that you mentioned. So we tried as you can call it small. It's about 3,000 square feet. I don't know how much stuff you can pack in there. You've seen it. We've done a good job of putting a lot of things in there.
There's a
Our
lot.
idea was to make sure that as many people as possible are represented. For me, my favorite part of the store is the international spice section. So I live in Sun Prairie. Up until recently, we had nothing on this side of town. If I needed something for my household, I have to drive all the way to the west side, which is where I know one African store is located. And so you have to make that trek. And if you go there, it's not a place that you can go every day living in Sun Prairie. So you buy in bulk and come back. That's how I've always operated in my household. So the international spice section for me is one of the favorite. And there are spices that are represented almost from every part of the world, from, East, West Africa, Southeast Asia, for example. I really love that section. I don't know what Samba's favorite is.
Well, what kind of spices? Wait, what kind of spices?
So we have all sorts of peppers, both fresh and dried. There are spices from the Southeast Asia section, like the Indians. We have Middle Eastern spices. So it's a nice mix.
So basically, every part of the grocery store is my favorite. But I would say the the predominantly African Gambian part of it for me is the millet section. Where you can find millet processed into different kinds of food and stuff like that. So I grew up eating a lot of dairy products, milk, soy milk, name it. And so millet, no matter how you process it, goes with dairy product. So that is my favorite part of the store, but I like every section of it. I can pick, grab and go from anywhere. The fresh produce also, I like plantains, and so I do enjoy that part of it as well.
Me too. I have to say, there are not enough plantains in Madison. I grew up in Florida, and we had plantains everywhere, and I love them so much. So that makes me so happy to see those.
Another section I like in the grocery store is the meat dairy section. Also serving the immigrant population is also important. I mean, when people immigrate here sometime, of course, the first generation, second and third may lose that attraction to ethnic food from where their parents may have come from. But the parents or the first generation immigrants are always attached to it. One thing that we provide there is lamb, which is very well consumed, particularly by the western part of Africa, and goat meat. We also understand that the Muslim community is growing, and so most of all of our meat is halal processed.
So one thing I noticed that you all don't sell alcohol or cigarettes, which many grocery stores do. And I imagine that was a very deliberate choice. Why did you decide that?
The whole idea is really, like I said, this is a business for profit. But as public servants and people who live in this neighborhood knows what the challenges are and what our responsibilities are as people and citizens of these neighborhoods. I personally do not believe in a cigarette is good for anybody. I think Jerry believes the same thing. I also do not believe alcohol consumption is good for people. And so if we are claiming that we are going to this neighborhood to help people to be healthy, I don't think it's fair then to sell them something that we know is not good for their health. And I think Jerry and I deliberated on this. It would make us a lot of money and bring a lot of traffic. But at the end of the day, it's not always about money. It's about principle, but also service to others. And so more the reason, at least for now, we are saying no to alcohol and cigarette.
We are a business, and we knew what kind of revenue can be generated from those because we've done our research. like Samba says, it's not always about the money. Our for-profit business has a social impact component to it, and we know what the challenges are. Usually, those two things are always prevalent in low-income neighborhoods. You find these shops strewn everywhere. They don't have access to vegetables and other foods that will contribute to their overall health, but you would find poor neighborhoods always presented with those two choices. It's an small alcohol outlet or a tobacco outlet. And we wanted to be different. We didn't want to be in that space for that reason.
Yeah, plenty of gas stations that offer those types of things in the area. And so as you're talking about all of the thoughtfulness and intentionality that went into designing this grocery store, I'm thinking about how much time and effort it took to get here, because this was years in the making, right?
I would say about 5 years. It's been really a long time coming. I think the idea itself was born around the 2019 area, shortly before COVID. Certainly, conversation started longer than that, but really, we didn't acquire the space until May of 2021. And of course, everyone is aware of the challenges and the curveball that COVID threw at us, and all the issues that come along with that. Maybe Samba can elaborate on that.
And also, after securing the property, it also, with COVID, the back orders of supplies and all the other things that comes with that, the build out alone took almost 2.5 years, basically, which did face a lot of challenges from construction materials to equipment, but also to code. It was sometimes very challenging to go through some of the processes within the local entities. But it's been a long way coming. And many of it is deliberate, but also it took a lot of persistence and pushing for us to get to the end. Otherwise, we may have given up totally, completely, and just call it off. But here we are. The business is up and running. The community is very happy about having this, as opposed to what was there before. I hope we can build on it and make sure that at least we are contributing in maybe small ways to the communities in the city of Madison, hopefully at some point beyond that.
Yeah, it's not every day that you see a strip club turn into a grocery store.
Yep, very true.
And that is something, that theme that we have heard before. There are people that just curious to come and look around and see how we are set up, the variety that we have, the overall organization. But there are people that also just walk into kind of like taking the transition, the history of the building, especially those who have visited the previous establishment. They just wanted to see what the transformation was from when they saw it when it was a club to what it is right now. So,
right, some nostalgia or something. Will come and say, "Oh, the pole was here" or something. Oh, like, okay, it's gone now. And some of them would act like, "Oh, I've never been here." I'm now be like, "Come on, I've seen you here so many times," and they would accept and say, "But some maybe once or twice." So it's really is interesting history around the building, and sometimes you crack jokes around it.
Now you're like, you can spend your money here.
Right.
What are your dreams for the grocery going forward?
So our dreams, of course, is success, longevity. Food really is important. Everything that we do in life, our access to healthy food sets the stage for most things that follow in life. And our hope is to be successful in this space. We think we have a blueprint for a model that could work in other places, with the fact that the city had identified these challenges in certain areas. Once we are successful in this space, maybe we can replicate this in other parts of the city or even the state. For now, our goal is to make sure that we are stable, we are successful in this space, make sure this model is proven, and long time be able to replicate it in other parts of the city and beyond.
Yep, So I totally agree. I hope the grocery will have many siblings around the city, around the state, around the country. So the idea is we really, really want to identify these pockets within the country. Look, homelessness is a real thing, but also lack of access to good quality food is a thing. And so our idea here is, again, I keep saying it's a business for profit, but with a consciousness of community service to it, social good to it. And so the idea is to be able to do this in as many places as possible. But we'll see how that goes. Not only provide access to good quality food, but help people with housing along with that. So the model is going to be wherever we are able to provide food, we also want to say, look, we can help with housing one way or the other. So hopefully, in the coming years, we'll have as many siblings as possible.
Excellent. I wish you much success, and you will probably see me over there. And now I'm going to have to check out some new spices too, I think.
Very good, very good.
Sounds good.
Sure, Samba. Thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Molly, for the opportunity to have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it.
That's CityCast Madison's Molly Sense with Goa grocery owners Samba Balde and Jera Kujabe. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with someone who loves some hot peppers? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, y'all.